Hi, I'm Rebecca, and this is a tutorial on Chaturanga Dandasana. If you practice a lot of this pose and you've ever had soreness in the front of your shoulders, or if you've noticed that you tend to round in your upper back when you do the pose and you have your teacher say, lift your shoulders, or your shoulders are dipping below your elbows, this is going to address some of the muscle groups that can help keep that from happening. There are a lot of things that can come into play with that. I'm just going to address a couple. So these are some possibilities. It's definitely not covering everything because this is known as four-limbed staff pose is the translation, and it's your whole body is supposed to be straight like a board. So the entire body is working in this balance. So it could be your core, it could be your legs, it could be your glutes. We're just going to look mainly at the shoulders and the upper back. All right, so for this tutorial, to practice along, you'll need a bolster and a couple of blocks. If you don't have a bolster, just fold up some blankets to be about this height, the height of a bolster, and you want some good firm blankets for that. Right, so one of the things that could be causing your shoulders to round forward in Chaturanga Dandasana is overuse of the lats. If you've ever heard of the lats, the latissimus dorsi, this is also sometimes known as the swimmer's muscle, and it's this big muscle along the back of the body, and it's responsible for adducting the arm, so you bring it in towards the midline, and then also internally rotating the arm. So think about swimming in a freestyle, you're adducting and internally rotating, so that's why it tends to get pretty developed on swimmers. Another culprit that could come into play is weak serratus anterior, and these are muscles that wrap around the back and kind of around the ribs, and they are responsible for protracting the shoulder blades, and that's whenever you throw something or when you push, like pushing a drawer closed. So plank pose, when you're pushing or pushing the floor away from you, you have to keep those firing as you lower down in Chaturanga Dandasana. So if those are weak, the lats are going to take over and try to do all the work because it's a powerful muscle, and it's gonna chip in where it needs to. So there's a lot of things you can do to strengthen that, and what we are going to do is practice the form of the pose in a way that's going to strengthen some of the other surrounding muscle groups in there that can help kind of combat the strength of this massive lat muscle. So we're looking at classic form for this. And classic form in Chaturanga is actually lifting from the floor up. So we typically, in a flow class, we would be lowering down in it over and over again. Lifting from the floor up is a lot more challenging to lift and hover, and it also gives you a place to kind of set those muscle groups up, and you don't have momentum working against you, so you lose the form. So while it is harder, it's actually easier to get the form set and then work there. So in order to show you this first one, I'm going to come onto my abdomen, and when I'm on my abdomen, I want to have my hands about in line with my rib cage. So that's going to be a little bit different for all of us. But if you bring your hands too far forward, so if you bring your hands under the shoulders like this, it's going to be really hard to lift up like you need to. If you bring them too far back, it's going to be really hard on the wrists. So I would find somewhere in between. It doesn't have to be perfectly under your elbows because we all are shaped a little differently, but just do as close as you can. And then I like to set this up by not bringing my forehead down, but looking forward and bringing the chin in towards the chest a little, but keeping some space between my chin and my chest. And then pressing into the hands, turning my left hand as if I was trying to open a jar, so kind of isometrically turning it to the left, and with the right hand as if I were trying to close it, isometrically turning it to the right. So what that's going to do is it's going to fire up some of the external rotators and just combat some of the internal rotation that happens with the lats. So if I'm working on internal rotation, that's what happens is the shoulders go down. If I work on external rotation, it's going to help me lift the shoulders a little bit more. All right, so then I'm pulling my shoulder blades together because remember I said the serratus anterior is going to protract the shoulder blades, so it's like pushing away from you. So I want to go ahead and get that set up because as I push into my arms, it's going to fire up the muscles that do the reverse of that. So then I've got kind of both of them working at the same time. All right, so now I'm set up, engage the legs, lift the abdomen, pull the shoulder blades towards each other, and I'm looking a little bit forward, not straight down. Then I'm going to just lift up to a hover, just lift up to a hover, and there you are, there's Chaturanga. I'm not pinning my elbows in, but I am pointing them back. All right, so yes, that is hard. And this is why we've got the bolster. So you'll lay on the bolster, and this is a longer bolster, so you don't really need one this long. You really just want to have your hips supported and your chest supported. It doesn't have to go all the way to your thighs. So get your hands set up about in the same place, kind of in line with your ribs. Do that little bit of external or rotation of the hands, external rotation of the upper arm bones. Pull your shoulder blades towards each other. Press the backs of your legs up, look a little forward, and then bring your chin in to level everything out. All right, and now we're set. Just push into the floor and try to lift off the bolster. And I didn't actually lift up, I'm just pushing and lower down. Try to keep all that happening. Shoulder blades towards each other. Push into the floor, push into the backs of the legs. Lift, try to lift everything up and lower back down. And you can do sets of that. So you never actually have to lift up in order to get the benefit of that. You just work on engaging. The other option for this is using the blocks. This is a little uncomfortable, a little less doable. If you've got really hard blocks, if you don't have foam blocks, I would suggest putting a blanket over them, because like a bamboo block, this would be a little bit uncomfortable. So on the medium height, this block's gonna go under my pubic bone, this one under my sternum. And just adjust that as needed. Bring your hands about in the same place, line with your rib cage, pull your shoulder blades towards each other. Now notice my head's starting to dip because I'm looking down. I'm gonna look up a little bit, then pull the chin in to lengthen the back of the neck. Squeeze the shoulder blades towards each other. Isometrically rotate the hands so the upper arm bones are externally rotating. Lift your abdomen, press the backs of your legs up, and then just see if you can push into everything and hover off the blocks. And lower back down. Try to lift everything up the blocks in one fell swoop and lower back down. So if you find this happening or this happening, try to focus on not actually lifting up all the way and just lifting a little bit in order to strengthen the muscles and also strengthen your abdominals, so that when you are lowering down, you're lowering down everything at the same rate. So those are the 2 tips for strengthening your Chaturanga Dandasana. Thank you for joining me for this tutorial, and I hope this makes this a more integrated, enjoyable experience for you. Have a great rest of your day.